Welcome to On the Table with Ashley, a podcast where I explore ways in which we can lead more fulfilling lives and amplify human connection by increasing our curiosity and communicating with less judgment and more respect. It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Allison Boester to On the Table with Ashley today. I've known Dr. Boester a very long time, since we were young children, so I'll do my best to call her Dr. Boester during this episode, but please forgive me if I slip up and call her Allie. Dr. Boester is an OBGYN practicing in New York City. A cum laude graduate of Tufts University, Allison received her MD at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. Her postdoctoral training included a residency in obstetrics and gynecology at the Drexel University College of Medicine. Dr. Boester has been on the faculty at Weill Medical College of Cornell University since 2005. Welcome, Dr. Boester. Allie.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
So, since I've known you a long time, I know the answers to some of these questions, but I always love for our listeners to start with where you grew up and what kind of kid you were, what you liked to do when you were young.
So I grew up in Northern California, outside of San Francisco, an area called Marin County. And I was the youngest child of 3 girls. I, loved to have friends and play, and I was curious and, was studious. I liked school. We did a lot of vacations and travel. That was kind of I had a very, very nice childhood living in a special place.
Yeah, very special, I would say. We've actually never talked about this, but what did you feel like it was like being the youngest? So I was kind of in the middle with my older sisters being identical twins and having a little sister. How was it being the youngest? Was there any either competition or you were like your parents' favorite or none of the typical things?
I was, my family moved when I was in 5th grade. So I was in a different school system. My 2 older sisters were 3 years or 2 years apart, and I was 3 years younger. So I always felt kind of left alone. I didn't have the competition that my sisters did because they went to high school together and they knew each other's friends. And I was kind of left out of that. But I was kind of left out of that. So I think that there was a little of, not that I grew up alone, but I kind of had my own thing.
Yeah.
My parents were a very laid back, classic California parenting, really hands off. But we were good kids, so I don't think they needed to maneuver, manipulate or control us very, very much.
Yeah. And actually, now you guys spend a lot of time together. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Your family is kind of a model for what I hope to do with my children after they go to college and then come back, which is that your parents organize multiple vacations every year. Everybody is invited, and you guys have a pretty big family. And I know not everybody can come to every trip, but it seems like for most of them, you get a lot of the family there. Can you just talk about that for a second? Because I think it's so wonderful. And so maybe it seems pretty unique and definitely something I want to emulate.
Yeah, it's definitely unique. I am feeling, I feel very blessed that I have the family dynamics that we have. We are a close-knit family. There's 19 total. So my 2 older sisters have 4 kids each. And my parents really created an environment where they want us to join them. They want us to be there. That helps that they, subsidize, that they do childcare. They make it so that it's hard to say no. So we all really enjoy our time together, and we make it happen. And it's really a nice way for the cousins to spend time together. And I don't see my sisters much beyond these trips, but it is 3 or 4 times a year and then some.
Which is more than I would think most of us as adults see our siblings, generally speaking. So it's so wonderful.
Yeah, no, I feel really lucky, really, really lucky. And I think my husband feels lucky to be part of that too.
Which is wonderful. I mean, and hopefully all of the husbands feel that way. But that's pretty special too. To actually want to do that is really amazing. So Kudos to all of you, honestly. I mean, your parents most of all, but to all of you for like jumping in and making it like an amazing tradition.
Yeah.
And I have a question about traditions at the end, so you'll have to think about something different. So, do you think that your father being a doctor led you to pursue medicine, or was it more a confluence of multiple influences? And what led you to focus on women's health? So, sort of two separate questions.
I definitely think it played a role. My dad is an orthopedic surgeon. He actually still at 80 years old is working to this day. He's a business guy. He loves what he does, and he, it's a role model that I appreciate. I didn't think I was going to go into medicine though. I thought everything but, to be honest, and I was going to go into, some sort of therapy, or I knew I wanted to work with people and I wanted to kind of be in a helping industry where I was working with, making people better. But I can't imagine that it didn't play a role. I mean, it is, when I was thinking about what's going to give me the most opportunities and to get a graduate degree, I was kind of going to be pigeonholed. And so I was like, I'll just go to medical school. My older sister's also in medicine, and she's also an obstetrician. So that clearly did some influencing as well. But I really do feel like I came at it because there was nothing else I could, find myself enjoying. And it gave me the best opportunities long term. You asked about.
Well, wait, so was it in college? So, because don't you have to take like prereqs in college?
I mean, it was college. It was like, I loved science. I loved, but I thought I was going to go to graduate school, like, get my degree in something different. And then I just was like, well, what's going to be better for me? If I can get into medical school, then I'll have options in medical school. Like I can do the same thing, but being a physician, I thought I'd have a better chance to have a broader spectrum of options.
Okay. Yeah. My other question was, what led you to focus on women's health?
I mean, once I chose medicine, really OB for me was I kind of got to do everything. Like I was a primary care doctor, I was a surgeon, I was in the office, I was dealing with day to day and kind of, someone's primary care doctor, but then I was also in the hospital dealing with like emergencies, and there's a little bit of adrenaline that I love kind of in obstetrics that keeps me going and keeps it exciting and keeps it fun. And then it's healthy, dealing with patients that are motivated to be healthy and stay healthy. And for the most part, they are healthy, and it's a happy field. Bonus that it's all women. I love that. It's kind of it's a neat, empowering feeling to be surrounded by women, the anesthesiologists and the people that choose to go into obstetrics, mostly women still.
That's amazing.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that too. I'd love to talk a little bit about your experience in medical school. One, just, we hear all the time, for those of us who have no connection to medical school, how hard it is, how intense it is. So I want to hear just a little bit about that. And then also, I feel like I hear more and more, oh, well, we didn't learn that in medical school. We're not taught that in medical school. So do you think that there are unconscious or maybe even conscious bias present in the medical education that disadvantage women? I mean, we're talking now about menopause a lot, for example, like as a society, which we did not do for so many eons. And I don't know what you're taught about menopause in medical school, but it seems like we focus on men more than women. And even, in my prior field in pharma, so many clinical studies are done in men and not specifically studied in women. So it just seems like there is some underlying bias as a layperson, but I'd love to hear from you as an expert.
Yeah, medical school was definitely brutal. It was, and I'm not a great test taker. For some people, they might have a different answer, but I needed to sit for hours, and it was a lot of memorization, and very time consuming and stressful. There was not a ton of support. I mean, I was lucky enough to have a good friend that I found that I could study with, and that but we have binders of just things, sheets that we studied off of. And it was hard work. Medical school for me was hard work, at least the studying part. I thrived when I could be hands-on. And that's when my personality and my social skills and things like that could be, kind of brought to the table. And that helped me in my rotations and things like that. Cause I was, that's where I do better than like rote memorization. There's a lot of things in medical school I think that they don't need to teach. If I had to do it again, or if I had to choose the curriculum, I know they want you to get a good global base, but there's some stuff that I'm like, I really don't need to know, like the Krebs cycle of, you know. But then there's stuff that they should teach that they don't teach. To your point about, menopause, and it's hard because every field has its own little nuanced area that, like, you could always learn more about, and you might not be able to really do much learning about it until you're hands on and in, boots on the ground. I'm learning a lot still, 25 years into this. It's a lot to cover, and it's only 4 years, and it shouldn't be more than that. But there's residency, and I think that they could do a better job. We talk about even like not even in my own field, but like, kind of educating physicians. We don't understand the finance of our jobs at all,
Right.
So their role for that in some aspect. That's a whole nother maybe topic, but I think there are kind of gaps.
Yeah. Yeah. Are there any movements to sort of update the curriculum that you're aware of? I mean, not that this is an area that you're focused on,
Right.
but
I'm not sure. I mean, I think that, yes, I think there's, I'm sure, there's on campuses, and, there's students that want more and seek it out. I don't know if it's a global overarching change that's being made.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I had a conversation in another episode with a high school teacher, and talking about how we could change just our fundamental education system. So I feel like we should constantly be reviewing these things. And I do think that I am more comfortable saying, because I know more, that I think there should be changes at the lower levels, at, middle school and high school. But I would guess that there's room for improvement here as well. Okay. And then can you tell us a little bit about residency? So was that as brutal as medical school, maybe in the hours more, but more interesting, or the competition? And then can you share one thing you loved about residency?
So residency was tough. I was in residency, before resident work hours, which I do think is important and needed to change. I mean, it was like to be on call every third night. You just don't, it was like eat, sleep, work, eat, sleep, work, eat, sleep, work. So that was obviously physically challenging. I mean, the only, not the only, but the bonus of that was that you were there a lot. And so you got to see a lot and do a lot, and you had much more continuity that I think sometimes it's like the residents like clocking out, like, I'm not, in the middle of like, what do you mean you're leaving? Like, yeah, that we're, you can't leave right now. I loved residency in a sense that, like, you learn so much. Your learning curve is phenomenal. Like what from the start. And I see this every year when I train residents. We're starting a new cycle right now. I mean, they come in like wide-eyed. They have no idea. I remember, like, getting a lot of things wrong, on digital exams and whatnot. And then in 4 years, or really less than that, you're managing the floor and you're taking care of patients independently. And it's an amazing amount of confidence you get, skills and knowledge. And so that's one of the things I loved about residency, was just how fast you just had to absorb the information and figure it out. And you were kind of like not given a lot of excuses and forced to be there and do what you're supposed to do. There's expectations
Yeah.
that you didn't, you don't have that, in any other, I don't know. I mean, I guess other jobs, there's probably expectations too, but just the expectation is you're going to, see one, do one, teach one. It was very, and then the bonds you make. I just actually ran into one of my residents living in California that happened to be, in New York City today. So, it's like forever bonds.
Yeah.
Closeness that you get with people that you spend in that type of environment.
And then I have to imagine then when you start your first job post residency, you just have so much more confidence. Like you feel like you know what you're doing. Like when I graduated from law school, I feel like I knew nothing. And it's, I guess you could argue my first 4 years of practice were sort of like your residency in a way, but clients had to pay for it.
Definitely. I mean, you're still nervous and you're still like, you have definitely, you're confident. I've seen everything. I've done everything. You always joke, like, I want to have all the bad stuff, not bad, but like the complications, and I want to see it all, and I want to do it all when I'm a resident, because I'm still not, the buck doesn't totally stop with me. And then when you're attending, there is a sense of responsibility. Like,
yeah,
I'm in, like, there's no one else, even though that's not really true. I mean, that's why I love working where I work. There's colleagues and people, and you're never, truly by yourself, but you have that sense of responsibility. Like, it's all on me. And that, getting used to that was challenging, transitioning from residency to being an attending. But the training is high quality. I mean, for, now to your, there's things I didn't learn, how to communicate with patients and how to give bad news, and, that evolves.
Let's talk about that for a minute. I feel like I think I've also read that's not really taught in medical school.
You can really teach it.
Well, I feel like you could take psychology.
Yeah.
Like, I think there are things that could be done that would be quite helpful. And I also totally understand that sometimes doctors need to sort of create a space between themselves and patients just for their own mental health. I mean, I know you personally, and you are such a warm, empathetic person, which I have to imagine you bring with you into your work. So can you talk a little bit about how you found your way to a balance, or the right way for you for bedside manner? Because sometimes it is bad news, right? And you have to learn how to do that, and also to connect with people and hopefully help them a bit.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that it's taking the time to explain and give people the space to ask questions. All of that really helps. And it's not all, business. It's not all, you have to understand this is a loss. This is a grief. This is even though it's like, it was, your 5 weeks, like what, like how connected, but it's like the thought, you have to get into where the patient comes from. And, remind yourself that this is the first time for them, or this is this is, for me, it's, another day, but remind yourself that, they're scared. They're, dealing with this for the first time. And so I try, to take it slow, and again, let people have the space to do what they need to. Some people are like, they want all the facts, and they want, and other people need a little more. You just have to read the room a little. I think that's sometimes challenging. And I'm still figuring it out,
Well, we're human. We're always evolving. So,
right.
So you were talking about how you weren't taught sort of about the finances of the practice in medical school. I have this thing. I feel like in high school, there should be way more financial education. But can you talk a little bit today about sort of all the different aspects of your practice, and maybe some of the things we don't even think about as patients, and then what you love and you want to spend all your time on, which is probably seeing patients, and then the things you kind of have to do, and how much does that take over? And does that contribute to any sense of burnout or not?
Yeah. So I'm in a group practice, which means, and I'm employed by the Department of Cornell, Weill Cornell. So I'm really an employee. For my patients, it feels like a private practice because they come to my office. I have a nurse, I have staff, I have, but really my receipts go to the department. So I get a cut.
Yeah.
So, um, I am, I don't want to be managing a practice. I mean, that was definitely a personal choice. Um, I don't want to hire and fire. I don't want to pay my lease. I don't want to deal with equipment. Like I have, you know, so that was one of the things in my office or how my practice is that I actually appreciate,
Yeah.
because I don't have the brain for that to run a business. I want to do my thing with medicine and I want to come in and see my patients and then, and then not have to worry about all the other stuff. Um, there's the connectivity these days. I mean, talk of burnout, like, I am 24/7 connected. I mean, it's on my personal phone, my electronic medical records, and that's good and bad. I mean, you have to create, like, I'm not going to look at it. I'm not going to answer this message. I'm not going to, my time is for my personal time is for my patient. I mean, for my way for my patients is with my husband, myself, my children. I have to create space for that or else it seeps into your, I mean, I check it before I go to bed. Like that can be very exhausting. When I go on vacation, I'm still checking because I don't want to be overwhelmed when I come home. That's the part of the medicine that I just, and then there's the expectations from patients. Like, they'll, at 7 o'clock in the morning, like I saw my results from yesterday. Like, well, I'm not even like in the office yet.
Right. Right.
Um, most patients have really nice boundaries and are, but there's some patients that just like I need it now. I need you to answer me now. I need, I'm
Right.
going through, just got this news about my ultrasound, like call me now. And that's sometimes, um, that's, I think what leads to burnout. And then the volume is hard too. I mean, and I'm like, I can't say no. Like my best friend wants to come to see you. My like daughter is now, graduating college and can she please see you? So, which is amazing. I want the referrals, but it's this, we have to
Yeah.
stop because my appointments are like, you can see me in a year. Like it's crazy.
Have you talked to your dad about how that's changed, like how he experienced communicating with patients, test results, boundaries, those kinds of things versus your practice?
I mean, I should actually. I haven't really, I mean, it's been a long time since he's been like in the trend. He does a lot of consulting stuff now,
Yeah.
but I don't remember him ever. I mean, and his industry and it's, orthopedics is less intimate.
Yeah.
Um, but I think, he definitely, it was not a 24/7 job for him. I mean,
I
he
mean,
was,
I suspect part of it is technology, right?
yeah,
Like, when before you wouldn't just get your test results in your email, there was no email.
wait, point.
You would wait. And it seems like we can also manage technology better. Like, why is it that the test results go as soon as they're ready? Like, maybe there should be some gate and time so that there is time for the doctor to have referred to them and be prepared to take questions because burnout, I think, is a very serious problem for doctors. I mean, we hear about it a lot, especially since COVID, but it probably predates COVID. So is that something that you talk about in your practice? And I'm sure you guys have to do like continuing education, like as a lawyer, you have to do that too. Is burnout sort of one of the things that you're given tools and, that's sort of continuing education about?
They do try. I mean, the department is aware, everyone's aware, and they want morale to be, as good as it can be. I was in a group of 6 and now I'm in a group of 8. So adding 2 doctors to the call schedule and to, when we want, when you can request vacations, the flexibility is better for
Yeah.
covering the hospital. So I have 8 doctors that cover the hospital with me, which means that there might be a week that I'm not I'm in the hospital, which was like unheard of when there was, 6 people, because one day a week someone has to be there. And then if there was a vacation or a maternity leave, all bets are off. You were there 2 or 3 times a week. So that's huge. That was a nice bonus that the department allowed us to have 2 more people. And then they also offered, we now have nurse physician assistants in our office, which is also huge because I can now go on vacation or take time off, or I don't have to squeeze everything into my office hours. I can say, well, my PA can see you.
Yeah.
I'm away, but my PA is available. And so patients feel like I'm not dumping on my partners, or I'm, that is also a wonderful addition. And then they do a nursing service to answer the phone calls at night. So
Okay.
we would be in the hospital. I'd be, delivering patients, and, I get my head down for like, an hour or whatever, if I could take a break. And then the phone would be just ringing, answering questions that are not emergent. I mean, they're emergencies to the patient and they need to be answered. Anyway, so now the nurse answers a lot of those questions, and we get she's coming to the hospital, or,
Yeah.
So those three things have been dramatically better, made my life.
That's fantastic.
Which is great. So I don't want to say that the department has done nothing for morale.
Right.
They're trying, and they want to retain. And Cornell is actually an amazing place because the physician loyalty is amazing. I mean, I've been there for 20 years almost. It'll be 20 years next.
Changes seem like they're really meaningful, which is great. And I'm not sure every practice is doing that, but it's wonderful that yours is.
Yeah.
And so how often now are you on call?
So I do one 24-hour shift for the weekend a month, which is nice. So that's one, just a Saturday or a Sunday once a month. And then I do usually one day shift during the week, but there's some weeks that I don't have to. And then one night shift during the week. And so it works out but there's some weeks I don't have to do that either. So I would say night shifts, there are 2 to 4 a month.
So I don't know how you feel, but I just turned 50. So it gets harder and harder for me to, I can't even stay up until midnight for New Year's anymore. So have you found it harder to do those as you're getting older?
Yeah, they're harder. I mean, once you're there, it's like a casino and everyone's awake and busy and you're chit-chatting and it's people, you like to be with, colleagues and things like that. So you're there, it's fine, but the recovery time is harder for me. Yeah. I mean, I never needed a ton of sleep, and I could, function with very little sleep. So that's helpful, but I can't imagine it's good for my body that I have, multiple nights a month that I'm very interrupted sleep and, a few hours.
Yeah.
But that's what you sign up for. And I do love what I do. So it's not all negative.
Right. No, of course not. Of course not.
But it is hard.
Are you also teaching? Is there a component of teaching, or is it more like teaching residents?
It's teaching residents. I mean, my department would love for me to sign up to do a whole host of teaching. That is a little bit of a pressure they put on us to be more academic and to teach and to do more research. It's not where I love. It's not the space I do best in. I don't mind teaching hands-on when I'm in the hospital, but I'm not doing a didactic, weekly session with the medical.
Right. It's just not your thing.
It's just, I can't. The department would love it, but
that would also be one huge addition to an already very full schedule.
Right. Like my time off, I mean, if you can even call it that, but my administrative time and my time away, I want to protect it.
Yeah, of course.
So it's a balance between giving back.
Yeah.
They do need to be taught. I understand they need to be educated and need to be taught. But I need to, at this age and this time in my career, I want to kind of also enjoy my time.
Of course.
Yeah.
As you should. As you should.
I know. I have guilt though. I do. And my husband always says it's okay. Like you're allowed to,
have a life.
Right. Do something that for you. I should pick up the kids. I should, do X, Y, and Z. He's like, no, you should maybe just sleep.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Or
I can relate.
Yeah.
So in an earlier episode, in episode 13 on the podcast with an amazing woman named Anne Kornblatt, I talked about an episode of the Ezra Klein Show, a podcast titled The Deep Conflict Between Our Work and Parenting Ideals with sociologist Caitlin Collins. And Collins shared some of her research studying pro-family work policies in Sweden and comparing those policies with much less family-friendly policies in the United States. And what stood out to me the most was how Swedish fathers are encouraged socially and supported financially, both by like the state, the country, and by their jobs to be more involved in child rearing, and the incredible positive influence that had on gender norms, child rearing norms, and gender equality. And I think partially as a result, Sweden also has one of the highest rates of female parliamentary positions in the world at around 46%. So when it comes to women's healthcare and childbearing, based on your many years of experience, is there anything you would like to see change in the healthcare system to better support women and mothers? And what kind of impact on society do you think that those changes could make?
I mean, there can always be, I think that there's, you know, allowances for women to do what they want, right? So, whether it's more maternity leave post birth or whether it's a more flexible work schedule, during pregnancy, I think just offering it would make women feel, just like not so stuck. I feel like a lot of women are like, feel like they have to keep going and they have to go back to work and they have to, and it compromises breastfeeding. And I do think all of that has like, long-term impact, that we probably, should be more aware of and more understanding of. I think getting the men involved is huge. We're not in the way back when men were, the gender roles were completely different. I think that's really important too, to give the men the support that they need to like be there. I mean, I always say it's a group effort. Even though the women, yes, do everything, but need the men to be, to be there and to help. So I wish that we had better, regulations and better rules around that. Because I think women really struggle, and then it becomes like a mental health issue. Like, I think if women were given a little more space, we'd be better parents.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's not so much within the healthcare system, it's more within the job sector, or regulations that either provide more expansive or more, with is for men, it's like in Sweden, they're encouraged to take leave. In the United States, I feel like they're encouraged not to take leave. So even if companies are starting to offer it, there's like this pressure to not take it or take 2 weeks. And it's like, that's really not that helpful. So, so it may be that what you're seeing, you see the results, women coming in stressed, maybe their partners coming in stressed, but that it's actually more outside the healthcare system that it would be better to see change.
I guess your question was in the healthcare system, how can we change things? I don't know if I do. I think it's more of it's a after the fact.
Yeah.
Other than the frustrating part, what I have, but it's not in obstetrics as much, but it's getting the insurance companies to pay for things and to cover things and to, having the conversation, like, I think you need this, but I'm not sure it's going to get paid for. Like,
yeah.
Cancer genetic testing, like that kind of thing. Like, but if you want it, you can pay out of pocket for it. Like, it just seems like, but in pregnancy, it's pretty bundled.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of well-oiled bundle.
Yeah.
So to me, I see all the angst and challenges I really see with the job and the acceptability of, I'm especially during COVID, it was like, I don't want to go into the office. I don't want to ride the subway. I don't want to, I'm writing to HR.
Yeah.
Part of my job is letters to human resource.
Has that shifted over the 20 years like that you've been practicing? Has that gotten worse, do you think?
I think women want I think they're demanding more freedom, and not freedom's the right word, but they're demanding more, like, I don't want to just grin and bear it.
Yeah.
Which I think there is a lot of that. I mean, there's a double-edged sword here, because I do tell women, like, pregnancy is not a disability. Like, a woman asked me to give her um, like a disability card so she can park closer. And I'm like, but like, you can move your body. Like, you are supposed to, it's okay to
Yeah.
do stairs, and it's okay to, the subway is not a dangerous place. Like, so I don't want to tell every woman she needs to, sit at home on the couch.
Right.
Because actually being a healthy pregnant patient is moving and making yourself busy, and sometimes getting to work forces that for
Right.
some women.
Yeah.
But I think that women over the years are just realizing that, like, they can ask for it.
Yeah.
And they should.
And they should. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you kind of don't overstep your bounds,
Right.
the woman who will.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. But that's interesting. And I think that's a good trend on the whole,
Yeah.
aside from people who maybe take it too far. But I really do think, and I talked about this with Anne, and I don't have a lot of hope for this, but until we can get it to be much more accepted for men to take more time, take more leave, be much more involved in child rearing, like, I think those stresses will continue for women.
Right.
So
it's all on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that, having children see dual participation is huge.
Absolutely.
My kids grew up like, is mom home tonight? No. Okay. Like, it's dad, so, and there were times where, if I was on a 24-hour shift and he couldn't, find the special thing or the what, it's like, I'm out. Like, you
Yeah.
can't get me. And I think that then that was important for him and for my kids. And
Oh, I think that's a huge benefit for your kids.
yeah,
A huge benefit. Yeah. Do any of them have any interest in medicine, do you think?
I'm not sure. Though all the people in medicine are always like, "Are you sick? Do you recommend going into medicine?" There's always that, is it worth it kind of thing. I don't think right now my kids are there. I mean, my 15-year-old is very finance, money, and he's really into understanding the stock market, and he's cute. I don't know if my 12-year-old has any idea my 8-year-old would just be a soccer player if he could. And medicine's such a good field. I do love it, but it's not what it used to be. Even
in what sense?
Well, I don't think you make the same. You have to work so hard to make the same amount of money. You kind of cap, and then as you age, you get less. Where in finance, you kind of start here and you just keep going up and up and up. Like,
right.
The higher up you get in a company, and the more you do, and the more responsibilities you have, you get more for that. There's an appreciation of that. Where in medicine, you just can't maintain that volume.
Yeah.
And so as you age, you kind of slow down, and then the money slows down too. So I don't think you make the same salary, but you're not going into it for the salary. And then there's like just the doing good piece. And I think there's like a little less, not that there's less respect, but there's, it doesn't have the same clout.
Really? You think so?
Well, I mean, I definitely, people are like, oh, you're a doctor. Like, there's still that. At least in obstetrics, they're just questioning. They're so suspicious. They're like, that weighs on you. Like, I'm just trying to help you. Like, I just want to, like, healthy baby, healthy mom. Like, that's my bottom line. And there's just a lot of like, well, there's sometimes you get questioned. Not that you shouldn't. I mean, because I don't want to say that you can't question your doctor and you can't ask questions and you can't. But there's like a suspicion that I don't think people had in the past. It was like,
right. Yeah.
There was like there's an innate trust that I think we're losing, unfortunately, in medicine.
Yeah. And then maybe more broadly,
we're trying to get that back.
Yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting
all these,
question.
like, are you biased?
Yeah.
In obstetrics, like, the maternal mortality rate is different, black, white, it's complicated.
Yeah.
All of that seeps into it. And I'm like, I want it to be simpler.
Yeah.
Like, just taking care of you. I want you to be happy and have a good outcome, and
Yeah.
or manage, like, if you don't, and make it better next time.
Right. Right. Right.
So my kids, no, and I'm not sure right now they'll go into medicine. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. They
Yeah.
still have they have plenty of time.
Right.
Of course. I mean,
Right.
we just want our kids to do something that's meaningful to them, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And I do think I have a job where, it's very rewarding. I'm not sure I'd have the same sense of pride, doing a spreadsheet or a deal, like a money deal, like it's different.
Yeah.
I love what I do.
Yeah. Well, can you share a story about a time you felt you were able to make a real difference in the life of a patient or a family?
Yeah, I thought about this question a bit. I know you kind of gave me some little forewarning. I mean, there was like the first year out of my career. I mean, this is like the dramatic answer. When I really feel like, like I saved this woman's life. It was really, and I think you actually probably know this story, but it was like a simple day. We were doing a repeat C-section. And this woman, went into full anaphylaxis and was essentially dying on the table in front of me. And I was young, and there was a lot of chaos in the room when we were kind of understanding that she was losing airway access because she was so swollen. And, there was the anesthesiologist recognized like she needed a tracheotomy in order to, give her oxygen. And it was that moment where I looked around the room and I was like, I guess I'm the surgeon and I'm supposed to do this. And I've never done it before and I don't know how to do it. But without hesitation, made the incision, and, the team of people that were surrounding me kind of brought her back to life. And obviously there was a lot more going on, but that, I replay that moment in my head frequently. It's, kind of almost a, reliving it. And she comes to see me. She did great. She survived. We recovered from that with the ENTs, figuring out what I did and telling me that I did a good job. Thank God. And she comes to see me every year, and we have a moment. And she's one of those that once my daughter, I see her daughter now. And that was really like a moment that I will never forget. Like truly, like we talk about life, death, and this, but that was really dramatic for me. And I still remember it to this day that, you never know when, what, how, those situations are going to happen. And, you hope that you can kind of get through it and have the, maintain your awareness and your wits and your calm and do the right thing. So that was big. But then there's little moments where, I just help people through their, darkest hours, or their, and people will come back and say, you said this and it really helped me. Or they'll write a letter to me, years later, like I remember, and it's just, those are the things that I try and save and remember, because I don't realize sometimes how much I touch the lives of so many people. Which, to me, it might be a fleeting conversation or a fleeting discussion that I have with someone. And it doesn't always need a pregnancy. Sometimes, abnormal pap smears. There's a lot of things that are scary in healthcare.
Right.
Breast biopsies, it's so navigating people through those life events. It's like, I try to remember those moments that help me.
Well, it's an honor, and it is a testament to your work ethic, to everything that you did to get to that moment. So it is, that is a pretty extraordinary story. And the little moments matter just as much too. Yeah. Thank you for sharing those.
Absolutely.
So I'm planning several episodes on the subject of death and dying in the fall to honor the 10-year anniversary of my father's passing from a rare cancer. And also because I feel like it's a subject we need to discuss more in our society. It's like, I feel like, okay, we got to menopause. That was something we never talked about, but we really still don't talk about death and dying. So one of the guests who's going to join me is a palliative care doctor. And in talking with him, so much of what makes him amazing is his ability to confront the subject matter with humility and compassion. Is there anything that you, you don't have to confront this subject. Well, I mean, you may if there's, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that. Like if there's a pregnancy and something is going wrong, then you have to talk about termination. So you do have to talk about these things. So have you learned over the years, or is it again sort of reading the room and every discussion is different, a way to help your patients through? And it also could be, like you said, it could be an abnormal pap smear. Like it could be somebody, not in the pregnancy time of their life in that season. So is this something that you've had to address, and what have you learned over the years that's helpful?
I do feel like I address it a lot. And whether it's the, early miscarriage, um, or, something in the ultrasound comes up, like this is not compatible with life and we need to talk about, termination or, and I've definitely worked with people through late term, terminations, up to 24 plus weeks. And so it's hard. I mean, it's really, I think you need to say the words like, terminate, and I mean, keep it very straightforward. And, um, I used to kind of talk about like getting closure and moving on. And I think over the years that vibe doesn't sit right with me. Like, I don't think you ever forget that
Yeah.
moment. I don't think you ever move on. I think you learn to like live with
Yes.
the trauma, and it might not feel so heavy all the time, but it's still there. And I think that shift has come later for me. It's always like, you'll get through it and it'll be different next time. Um, and especially for people that like truly, they hold on to those moments, deeply. So I think acknowledging that, I mean, who knows what helps people. And I think that they sometimes share with me, sometimes don't. But at least personally for me, guiding someone through a loss, um, that's helped me kind of, and sometimes we have to deliver, I mean, these are all such horrible, like, but deliver the stillbirths, full term, you came in, you thought you were in labor, and I have to say, like, there's no heartbeat. And then you still have to, deliver these, these like beautiful looking, perfect beings. And, it's really, really, really traumatic. But people are resilient. I mean, that's the other thing that I've learned, is that the strength of people's, kind of resilience or capacity to, put one foot in front of the other and just learn to live through it and with it. I mean, it is possible. I want to remind people that like they're not alone.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that I think is really helpful, that like this is not something you need to do by yourself and not talk about it. And I think sharing with other people does help. I mean, it doesn't help everyone, but for some people, that's an important way to, to kind of figure out, how am I going to get through this?
Right. I did another episode with a therapist who talked about the need for certain professions, including therapy and healthcare workers, to actually be in therapy and like how helpful that is. Is that something that you've done? Because you do take on, there's a lot of joy in what you're doing, and there is a lot of heartache and trauma as well. And do you process that on your own with your husband? Have you gone to therapy? Like, is that something you guys talk about in your profession?
We do talk about it. We do, it's not the, we are sometimes victims too. I mean, it's not easy for us to, I've only had a few maternal, not personally, but maternal deaths in my, time of doing obstetrics, luckily. But there have been maternal deaths. There are definitely the full-term stillbirths. I mean, I always say it's 98%. My job is like 98% amazing and happy and, 2% horrendous. I probably should be in therapy. I don't, I mean, I've done, I have had a therapist in my, but it was even before, it was even, it was aeons ago. I think I process it with my husband. I'm very open. He hears a lot. My sister, it's helpful that she's in obstetrics. I don't have to like sugarcoat or explain anything. So she and I talk. I think I vent to my partners. We talk a lot amongst each other. I think we're each other's own therapists.
Yeah.
Because you do need to talk about it. You can't just let it doesn't go away.
Right.
We're just as beaten up and traumatized by, it might not be as much, but it's definitely not, easy on the person taking care. And you have to kind of maintain your professionalism. And that's hard too, when the person in front of you is like a puddle and a mess and you just want to cry and you can't, like you could, but it's like you need to, keep doing your job.
Yeah.
During those deliveries, the room is like silent.
Yeah.
And it's hard. So yes, our mental health is sometimes, forgotten, but amongst ourselves, we're very, we share a lot, which helps.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You have an amazing husband and 3 wonderful children. You and your husband both have very busy, demanding jobs. Can you describe a typical week in your life, how you balance patient care, motherhood, personal needs, and prioritize and scheduling your time effectively?
Yeah, we're very busy. My husband is hands-on, but he has a high, kind of responsibility job too. Travels a lot. So there's a lot of coordinating, and we are fortunate to be able to kind of also afford a lot of help, which I couldn't do it without, the people that kind of come in and support my kids and maintain the household and do the things that I can't get to because I'm out of the house at 7:30 in the morning and I'm not back till the next night sometimes. So there's a lot of people that come in to help, which is my kids. I think it's important that they learn how to depend on other people and respect other people and know they can get taken care of by other people. It's not just mom and dad. I think that's important in their independence and education in terms of how to behave in the world, which I sometimes tell my patients that struggle going back to work. I'm like, listen, there's a lot of good things that come from not being there all the time. We communicate. I mean, there's a calendar. There's a lot of sitting down and planning out. There's a lot of planning that goes ahead with having 3 busy kids having their own social lives that we need to still kind of manage. And my older one is starting to be like, you can get there, you can figure it out, you can plan it. But, when they were young, it was like, who's going to go where, when? And so it's a lot of letting go too. Like, I'm not going to be there for everything and see everything, and that's okay. I'll hear about it.
Is that something that you had to work on, or were you always good at that?
I think I think I made a little bit of both. I mean, um, I don't like to dwell. Like I'm not like I'm a pretty optimistic person. Like I don't think I'm gonna, you know, be not a good mom because I wasn't there for the first steps or I didn't see the first this or the first that. Um, so I think it was easier for me. I have three boys, so they are, I think, less, potentially, not to put, biases in the room, but, girls, I think my friends, my colleagues with girls, like give a little bit more like, there's a little more emotional pulling. My boys are sweet and they, still run to me and give me hugs when I come home, but I don't get the guilt from them, which is thankfully, and I don't know where that's chicken and the egg. Like, did I just create, like, I'm not home. Like, you'll be
Right.
fine.
Who knows?
Who knows? But no, it's like, it's definitely a team effort between, taking care of these kids and the dog. And it's a group effort.
Do you feel like it's getting easier or harder as they're getting older?
I think there's things that are easier. I'm growing up having the kids in Manhattan. I feel kind of bad for my friends that are still like schlepping and chauffeuring and I mean, I guess now with all the rideshare apps and things like that, it's easier. But my kids are very independent at a very early age. I mean, at 12, they're on the subway. Like,
Yeah.
can't get you to school. You got to go yourself.
Right.
So I think that makes it easier. But you have to let them go. There's not everyone is letting their 12-year-old on the subway. But there is a bigger kids, bigger problems. There's like social angst in middle school, and there's, problems crop up. But
it starts out as like physical protection,
totally.
Keep them physically safe and manage like everything they're doing. And then for me as well, it's turned much more into like a mental game than,
yeah.
I mean, there's still a lot of activities and all of those things, but the burden or the emotional burden feels much more like a mental burden.
Yeah. But my kids are good kids. They really, and we love all kind of being together. I mean, I hope that I have a family dynamic the way my parents created, that we all want to spend time together and enjoy each other. And, I mean, there's brotherly fights and things, but they really, I think it's, I think also in New York, like the space is so small, like we're on top of each other and my kids share a room. You can't just one person in the basement and one person, like you have to learn how to
be together
there and be together because your stuff is on top of each other and
So what and you have, I remember when I first came to visit you, you had like a small space. Over time it's gotten bigger and bigger. So I mean, for New York.
No, for New York, we're definitely fortunate. I mean, there's always more, but I'm happy where we are. To be honest, we're right next to Central Park. So that's like
it's amazing. It's totally amazing. So if you look at sort of what your dad has done in his career and kind of moved more into consulting and sort of a different kind of practice, have you thought for yourself, like in the future, do you see yourself sort of staying patient focused, this kind of care you're giving, or could you see yourself moving more into something that's consulting and even potentially addressing like some of these areas of like burnout? Like you could create a company that helps with that, which would still be helping in the way you want to help and from like a young age you wanted to contribute, but would be, a very different lifestyle. Like, have you thought about that or do you think about that?
Yeah, there's the conversation amongst us too and among colleagues, like what's your end game and how are you phasing out of, because you just can't do obstetrics. I mean, people do, but it's hard on your body and it's exhausting. And so where do you go from, the job that we have and what does it look like? And I do think about it. Just transitioning into the office just feels very mundane and simple, which was what most people do. They just go GYN only, and it's just mammograms and pap smears and birth control pills, and but that just seems very, I lose the excitement of,
Yeah.
I mean, not as exciting, I should say. So then there's like, should I try and get a pharma job or I don't know. I mean, I don't know what it looks like. And I'm I have a hard time too sometimes. I mean, this is my personality, just like doing something completely different.
Right.
So, but there is all that, and that's, but it would have to kind of fall in my lap. I'm not sure I'm motivated enough to like, I'm going to create this business and be an entrepreneur. And all of a sudden, when I'm like, 60, I kind of want to, yeah, not, I am involved a little bit in this like little postpartum retreat thing. So maybe I could get more involved in that. But
What is that? Tell us about that.
so my patient, her name is Boram, and she created a space where women can be postpartum, so a transition between hospital to home, where they're given a lot of support. So it's basically at this beautiful hotel, and you sign up and you go with your baby, and there is lactation consultants and support staff to kind of ease you from hospital to home, really focusing on, she wants to keep the focus on the woman.
Yeah.
Instead of all of it shifting, which it suddenly does, to the baby. Kind of like remembering that, this woman needs a lot of TLC.
Yeah.
So she's an incredible entrepreneur and started this in New York City, and then wants to bring it to like, in a lot of cultures, other culture, when she's, anyway, they really support the women postpartum better in other countries than we do.
So she wants to bring that to other countries in the other cities in the United States.
Other cities in the United States, yeah. So she's looking at,
That's very cool. So how long would a woman and baby stay at this hotel?
It would be, it could be anywhere from 3 days, 2 days. Some people, my patients have stayed for, a few weeks. And it's right now it's pricey.
Yeah. So you pay for it.
But, and you get all your meals, and you get support groups, and you get, just check it out. Boram Care.
BORUM.
Yeah. Oh my God, I should know this.
We can put it in the show notes. We can put it in the show notes too. Can the partner come as well, or is it only for?
No, it's the partners can stay.
Okay.
Partners can stay. There's like a nursery, and she has it all figured out. She's incredible.
It's very cool. And it seems like it would be really interesting to do like a study on outcomes and like stress, anxiety, like so many things.
People, I think, are better breastfeeders. I think I do actually, I really, I believe in it, which is partly why, she came to me, and she's been talking about it for years. And it's come to fruition. And I support it. So I think it's create that, if they can't pay for if they don't have that, they need to remind them that their recovery is super important. Right.
But at least I had some sense of like how exhausted I would be, and how, at least there were certain
a different attitude a little bit. Expectations are a
right.
lot.
Right. But you're right. It's like you are recovering from either a very intense experience or a surgery.
Yep. Yep.
yourself. And then you are taking care of this, helpless being, like a being that literally cannot do anything for itself.
Over the place.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, what a really amazing idea. I love that.
So maybe I'll go and work for her.
Yeah. Sounds amazing. That sounds amazing. Well, is there anything I haven't asked you about that you would like to share with listeners about what you do, about anything?
No, my words of wisdom to everyone is just kind of go with the flow and be flexible. And I think in what I do is, I try to remind people that like, you're on autopilot, like you're going to do okay. Come from a space of, like assume everything's going to be normal until proven otherwise. I'm trying to reduce anxiety.
Yeah.
That's where I am in my job right now.
Yeah.
You'll be okay. So those are
Okay.
my take home, that it's in terms of, not that it's not really a question, but it's just how I see my place in the world as an OBGYN.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
people are very worried, too worried.
Yes. Yes.
Like it's going to be okay.
Do you have, and I'm going to ask a question about resources, but do you have specific resources like books or podcasts or anything that you recommend to your patients before they deliver to help reduce that anxiety?
Not necessarily to reduce the anxiety. I mean, I think like go to the source. Like American College of OBGYN, so ACOG has patient centered information. It's not, it's sometimes the internet has crazy stuff on there that I'm like, what did you read? And
Yeah.
who's telling you what? Like, you heard that from who?
Right.
So I feel like that if you're not, ask the doctor, and then, if you need to go to some source, that's usually what I tell people is, ACOG, safe place to get information. Yeah. ACOG.org.
I just remember there's like the book of the moment.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. I mean, what to expect when you're expecting, that's been like around for 100 million years.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, but most people want, digital.
Yeah. These days.
Easy
Yeah.
access.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my company Amatond and the gifts that I sent you. So I sent you our crystal bowls, which are hand blown in the Czech Republic. It's a collaboration we have with a small shop there called Klimchi. And we worked really hard on the prototypes and the design. We actually have tumblers that match the same design, and they're dishwasher safe. I mean, you could put them in the microwave too if you needed to, which I love because I have so many things from my wedding that I don't use because they're just too hard to take care of. And we have two different sizes of those. One of the reasons I like to talk about this is that because we're developing our own products and we do small batch production, we can actually iterate on them. So one comment I've gotten is it would be nice to have a bigger one for like chips or like something a little bit bigger. So love to get your feedback on that. And then also sent you a couple of our wooden spoons, which are very small, which work well with those bowls. And those are made of acacia, and they're easy. Like they don't take on the smell as much of foods, and they're naturally bacteria resistant. So they're pretty, and I love the design of them. So during COVID, I started eating soup with a wooden spoon. Have you ever done that?
I think so. No.
So my goal is to actually make like a soup spoon that's wooden, but it's actually quite difficult to carve the wood into the spoon shape. Anyway, it's done in Asia, and it's actually a really delightful experience. Like I highly recommend it. So it doesn't conduct heat, so it doesn't get hot in the same way. It's like a really different experience. So ultimately my goal is to get to a soup spoon, but the appetizer spoon is awesome now for like hummus or jam or whatever. And then I sent you a couple of our napkins too. I feel like you are, like you said earlier, that you're sort of just like an optimistic person, which is exactly how I always have seen you. And I sent our Go Catch Your Happiness napkins to you because I felt like those were perfect for you. So any feedback you have on the products now or later is wonderful because we are doing our own design and production, and it's really helpful to get the feedback.
Yeah, I mean, they're gorgeous. I agree with the size. I mean, it's nice to have, and it's nice to have matching. Like it's kind of fun to, different sizes of matching bowls.
Yeah.
But they're beautiful. You put them out and they're like a conversation piece. No matter what you have in them, pretzels or nuts or, it's kind of fun to like, oh, where'd you get those bowls? So, that's neat. And, I like the wooden, I don't have a lot of wooden spoons. So that was, thank you for that. That was kind of fun. We do a lot of cheese and crackers and jams. So
perfect.
it was all, it's beautiful. Your stuff is beautiful. Like, I don't, it's,
Thank you.
yeah. Thank you for
Thank you.
sending it to me. It was a surprise. Not a surprise, but it was a nice, welcomed gift.
Well, you're very welcome. I always like to end with the same 5 questions. The first is, as we explore in my brand, Amatand, objects can hold a lot of meaning for us. They can tie us to the past, enable us to enjoy the present more, or even take us into the future. Can you share an object from your life, whether you still have it or not, that holds a lot of meaning for you, and tell us why?
I think I'm going to go with my candlesticks because I got them around the time of my bat mitzvah. And they're from my aunt and uncle. I mean, I remember the gift well. Um, and I use them as often as I can. And it reminds me of um, growing up with my parents and the Shabbat dinners that we had together. And those were really special, kind of memories for myself, my friends. It was very deeply meaningful to have those Shabbat dinners, and I didn't realize it at the time, but now I'm trying to create the same kind of memories for my kids as best I can, being a busy mom. I don't get every Friday.
That's okay. That's
Yeah.
okay. In another episode with an amazing woman named Dana Grinnell, who's created like all of these non-toxic products, or she collates a store of non-toxic products for your house and your body. Her mantra is progress over perfect. So I think that's beautiful. I love that. Okay, can you share a favorite tradition, but it has to be different from the family vacations? And it could be something from when you were a kid or something that you do with your children or your extended family today, anything. Or it could be resolved around a recipe. I mean, your mom always, laid such a beautiful table as well. So any tradition.
I think, the recipe kind of sparked my memory. I mean, my mom is a great cook. She does it seamlessly, like effortlessly. I don't know how she does it. And she makes the challah and a lot of again traditional Jewish food. So I have in the past tried to emulate her challahs. My kids, still like grandma's better, but I keep trying. But they fall in love with my the kugel. So that's also like this.
So how do you make your kugel? What's in your kugel?
Mine's a sweet kugel, so it's basically a lot of cottage cheese, sour cream cheese, milk, butter, sugar. No cinnamon. It's very buttery and sweet, and
that sounds delicious.
it's delicious. It's really good. It's really good. Yeah. So we do. My kids will ask for it all the time.
Really?
They do, and I mean, it's not really. I don't know if it has like a holiday. I don't think it has like a holiday.
It feels very Rosh Hashanah to me, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But you make it regularly, like
it will be a treat. Like I'll make it a couple times a year when I know my kids are going to be, around and
that's awesome. Okay.
All their friends. It's fun when the non-Jewish people are eating kugel.
Yeah, of course. So you were just talking about how, putting out cheese and crackers and stuff. So I think that you do entertain a lot. But one of my questions is, are you in a phase in your life where you enjoy entertaining in your home? Why or why not? And has that changed? I mean, I think you always have.
We love to entertain. I mean, we do love to have people over. I mean, it's hard. New York is a little hard because you just don't have the space. Like we can't, but we do have a table that expands. And so we do as best we can to have people over. It's also, New York City food is a draw. So it's like, do you want to eat in or go to an amazing restaurant? But there's something special about having people in the house and like the relaxation that's tied to that. Like there's no rush to get out. There's no, the kids can kind of leave the table and do their thing. And I love that lingering. That's what I love about entertaining at home or in someone's home, whether I'm going to their house or they're coming to ours. There's like a authenticity or just like a relaxed vibe.
Yeah.
You're not you're just, hanging out,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
which is fun, which is, creates a different space than when you're at a
Yeah.
restaurant.
Yeah. And like it helps you slow down. You guys have such busy lives too. So
Yes, we are. We try to take Fridays and not plan because we're exhausted. So, so we try to plan Fridays as like, okay, and we try to make it a little spontaneous sometimes too. It's like, oh, who should we call tonight and see if they're free? As opposed to planning it, 6 months ahead.
right. Right. Well, you already shared a resource for pregnant women, but do you have one or two top resources, whether they're books or podcasts or websites? And it doesn't have to be related to your practice. It could be about anything else, that you enjoy in your life.
I do a ton of podcasts. I mean, I think if I like the health stuff. I like learning about like nutrition and exercise. The podcast that I would love to spend more time on. I have a friend, not you, because you are already well versed in your podcast, but someone else that's doing a podcast about what encourages people to get into exercise, which I think is fascinating. Like what motivates people. So anyway,
you're doing a great job.
Yeah. But there's nothing specific. I don't have any like go-to. But if I was going to choose a podcast, that's the genre I would choose.
Do you have any favorite books? Not medical books, but do you like to read?
I do love to read. I don't get to read very often. I do read Lessons in Chemistry was really cute.
That was fun.
That was a fun one. I usually read what my mom tells me to read because what's everyone doing? There was another Jodi Picoult book. Jodi Picoult's very her books are ethically interesting. Have you ever read any of her books?
No. I'm going to look them up.
Always has like in the forefront of what we're struggling with in society. I feel like she writes that in a very interesting way. Jodi Picoult. So I read a book about transgender things.
Okay.
But she's written about everything from cord blood banking and having a child to like donate the blood for the, she's an interesting topics.
Definitely. I'm going to look that up.
So maybe Jodi Picoult.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Last question. What do you do for yourself? You're so busy. Do you have a practice, a focus, a habit or daily routine that you adhere to that contributes to your success and or your well-being?
I probably would fall back on yoga. I really enjoy yoga. I think I'm not like, I want to exercise and be, treat my, do help my body, be strong and balanced. And again, like everything else, I should do it more, but sometimes I just want to breathe. And so yoga has that kind of slow down as opposed to a gym. It's like, go, go, go. And people are screaming at you and the music's loud. And I just want to go to a space where it's like, we just sit for a second and we get grounded and, so that I like yoga.
And you actually go to like a yoga studio?
I enjoy a studio better than I've done the at-home stuff. I enjoy a studio better. It just forces me to, I guess, take it more seriously. When I'm in my own space, I'm always like, oh, I'm like I get distracted.
Right.
So when you go to a yoga studio, and there's one down the block from me, and it's
convenient.
It's convenient. It's easy. It's not that crowded. But I've been, using them for a long, long time. So that's probably my happy place.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a little therapy wrapped into yoga too. Totally. It's like taking care of yourself in a different way. So
I would love for also to be like get out and run in Central Park, but for some reason that's harder for me. It sounds so good, and I'm like, oh, I should do that. It's 30 minutes, easy. I don't have to plan and prepare. It's
progress over perfect.
I'm going to keep thinking about it.
That's good. That's great.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been so wonderful talking with you. It's so good to see you.
Oh, I love this. It's awesome.
It's really been fun and a pleasure. Yeah. And I will talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Thanks for listening to an episode of On the Table with Ashley. Subscribing to, rating, and reviewing our podcast helps us to continue to record great interviews. So please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. If you're interested in learning more about the products we talked about on the show, visit amattendre.com. That's AMEATENDRE.com to check them out. When you become a member by sharing your email on our website, we'll share special discounts that relate to products discussed on each episode. Finally, email us at reachoutanytime@amattendre.com with thoughts you have or ideas for topics or guests for future episodes. Thanks for listening.